welcome back to STEM for Girls by Girls in STEM. I'm your host, Serena Berry, and today's episode is entitled Girls Lead the Way. In today's episode, we will be talking about STEM leadership, why it is important, and how to become a thought leader, change agent, trailblazer, and pathfinder. We will also be talking about some of the responsibilities of a STEM leader and how to tell if you are a born leader. We will also be talking about certain leadership skills like public speaking, communication, problem-solving, networking, and self-advocacy. We will also be talking about some of the leadership roles in the STEM field. And finally, we will be talking about mentors and role models. So the STEM field deals with innovations of the future. Therefore, it is necessary for a STEM leader to create a culture to inspire, innovate, and impact many different types of people. The unique thing about the STEM field is that it deals with the advancing science and technology fields. This can be anything from cleaner energy production to global communication to life-saving medical technologies and pharmaceuticals, and even to global safety and security. Therefore, it's necessary for a STEM leader to drive innovation and productivity and to improve the quality of life for all. It's also important for a STEM leader to be able to collaborate with diverse individuals, and therefore it should be a priority of a STEM leader to have representation and inclusion. Some of the important STEM leadership skills include confidence, courage, and integrity for global good. This is because at the end of the day, the STEM field focuses on helping people. It is also important for a STEM leader to be good at problem solving and for them to get involved in STEM missions and civic projects. Advocacy is another important skill of a STEM leader so that they can influence and create change. It is the responsibility of a STEM leader to be well-versed in some of the issues in the STEM field, like the lack of diversity and underrepresentation of women in STEM. It is also important for a STEM leader to be good at public speaking and specifically being a thought leader. A thought leader is someone who is an expert in their field and sort of the go-to person for that field. Communication is another good skill to have, and it is important to be a storyteller. Therefore, you can communicate with people and connect with them on a human level. Collaboration is also extremely important in the STEM field since it involves a lot of cross-disciplines and industries. For example, if you're creating a new medical device technology, it involves the collaboration of doctors, mechanical and biomedical engineers, regulatory engineers, and even sales and business people to promote the product. Therefore, it's necessary for a leader to be able to break barriers and work together with multiple industries. It is also necessary for a STEM leader to be good at team building. Therefore, you can involve many different people who are experienced in many different things and multiply the efforts of the team. And finally, networking is a very important skill to have to build connections because you never know who can help you or who can provide you with new opportunities. Some people are naturally born leaders and are very outgoing. However, other people are more soft-spoken, and either quality is fine to have because you can always develop the necessary skills that you need to be a successful leader. The best way to learn how to be a good leader is to take on the initiative by possibly starting a robotics team, a school club, or a research project. This can seem really daunting at first, especially if you don't enjoy public speaking. However, the best way to grow and learn is when you are put out of your comfort zone. Another great way to take on leadership is by fundraising and event organizing, and these types of outreach events are a lot of fun and a great way to give back to your community. You can also develop leadership skills through school presentations, by creating your own website, and even on social media, which are all fun activities. My leadership experience came from being the president of the Massachusetts HOSA chapter. HOSA stands for Health Occupational Students of America, and as president, it was my responsibility to organize the state leadership conference for about 250 students. At this conference, there were different competitions, speed networking with healthcare professionals, and also hands-on clinical stations. At the International Leadership Conference, I met with the presidents from all the other different states, and we all attended a leadership skills seminar. This put me really out of my comfort zone. However, by taking on the initiative to be president, I developed a lot of confidence in my leadership skills and through STEM. Some of these STEM leadership roles in engineering involve technology, manufacturing, and product solutions. In the medical field, STEM leadership roles involve life-saving research, applying for grants, funding, and studies, and advancing medicine. STEM leadership can also occur through entrepreneurship by starting a business, growing a business, and even building a company. To talk to us a little bit about STEM entrepreneurship leadership, we have a short demonstration video from Ann Westerheim, who is the founder and president of Icaru, which is a cybersecurity company. Ann Westerheim sets the strategic direction of Icaru and runs the marketing and sales efforts and even the day-to-day operations of the company. She has many technical achievements and has even been recognized with 2 U.S. patents and over 20 technical publications. She also serves as the member of many clubs like the MIT Club of Boston and has been published many times in publications like the Boston Globe and the Boston Business Journal.
Hey there, this is Ann Westerheim, founder of Icaru, a managed service provider and cybersecurity company in Massachusetts. I'm a trained engineer. I worked for many years in the semiconductor fabrication space. I used to make microprocessors. My company was acquired by Intel many years ago, and I decided after that point to branch out on my own. And I love technology. I love helping people. I also love teaching. So I started an IT consulting company many years ago to give me the flexibility to do what I love to do, to help people, and to have a lot of flexibility with my time that I didn't have in a large corporate environment. In this day and age, cybercrime is bigger than all forms of organized crime put together. Big corporations have IT departments that help them with everything from strategy and planning to security, but small businesses don't have internal IT departments. Up until a company has maybe 100 people on board, it doesn't make economic sense to hire a full-time person, or if you can get one person, maybe they have desktop experience, but they don't have server experience. So what we do is we fill a gap in the market to provide sort of enterprise class IT services to smaller organizations. What this means is that we do everything for them, from strategy and planning to exploring new line of business applications, figuring out how to go paperless, how to navigate the crazy world of cybersecurity right now. You've all seen in the news a Colonial Pipeline cybersecurity event. The ferry to Martha's Vineyard was hacked, many town governments in the area, etc. So we do a lot of things around thought leadership within our community. So helping to support our customers, we do training events with them, a lot of social media. We have various webinars every month teaching about the latest things that the businesses need to know about, micro training on a weekly basis. It's really important for our team to stay trained and up to date, so we do a lot of networking within the industry. There are so many different tools and products that can be used to manage the IT of a business and to help secure the business. What we do is we kind of look at that entire landscape, get to know who's in the industry, what's new from Microsoft, what's new from the latest vendors, and kind of translate that all into what we call a technology stack, which is just a fancy term for the technology tools that we use. So we create a smart and affordable platform for small businesses to run their IT infrastructure. So for example, a 20-person medical office has to comply by all of the HIPAA technology regulations to keep data secure. We're the ones that they rely on to help make sure that their systems receive the proper security updates, their firewall is up to date. And while there's no such thing as 100% security, doing a lot of smart and affordable things can help small businesses stay secure and competitive. So all of us really love technology. We love helping people. And this is a way of directly impacting the community every single day. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about it. We work with really great entrepreneurs, other small business owners. We get to work with leaders in the industry in terms of delivering the best technology to our clients. We're learning something new every day. We bring a lot of immediate value to our clients. And, that's a lot about why I became an entrepreneur, and we've grown the team, and everybody on the team really approaches the work with the same spirit. I really encourage young women to get involved in STEM. I go to technical conferences, and sometimes the room is almost completely full of men, even in this day and age with so many advances. So it's really exciting to see young women get interested in technology and stick with it, because you can have a really rewarding career where you're going to make a great positive impact on others. So thank you.
An important aspect of being a leader is being a mentor to future students who are following in your footsteps. Most leaders are mentors and like to teach, grow, and develop other leaders and young students. A mentor is an experienced individual who teaches and gives advice. Mentors are there for us to learn from, and they help us progress and grow. You can have many different types of mentors, and you can also have a lot of mentors. Some of the different types of mentors include a youth mentor, who works with you and is a role model for you to follow and learn. There are also peer mentors who show you the ropes when you join a new assignment or job. Your peer mentor could be like your fellow students in your class. A career mentor is typically someone who is one step ahead of you in their career, and they can guide you and advise you for your career path. And a life mentor is someone who can inspire and motivate you and help you balance your personal and professional life. Personally, I believe that everyone should reach out and get a bunch of mentors, because my own mentors have helped me a lot in giving me confidence and providing me advice whenever I needed it. And it is because of them that I even had the confidence to join the STEM field. And part of the reason why I wanted to start this show was so that I could share some of the influential advice that I was given from my mentors with all of you, so that you too would feel confident in joining STEM. Now we have a special interview with two guest speakers who are two of my mentors, Miss Asmitha Konolker, who is the Senior Director at SMC. She has a Master's in Material Science and Engineering from WPI and has over 24 years of manufacturing experience, specialized in the medical device and pharmaceutical industry. She has held various engineering and management roles and has even led many teams. She has also been published numerous times and presented at numerous thought leadership talks for the industry. And we also have another guest, Dr. Achala Vagal, who is the Professor of Radiology and Vice Chair of Research at the University of Cincinnati in the Radiology Department. She has expertise in stroke imaging and advanced neuroimaging and cerebrovascular diseases. She has received grants from the NIH and is even the recipient of the Stroke Innovation Award at the 2019 International Stroke Conference. Both of these guests will talk to us about STEM leadership and mentoring. Hello and welcome back. Today I am joined with my two mentors, Mrs. Asmitha Konolker, who is an engineer in the medical device industry, and I'm also joined with Dr. Achala Vagal, who is a doctor of radiology. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
So, Ms. Konolker, you have given many talks and presentations at biomedical device conferences like MD&M and Biomed Digital. An important aspect of leadership is public speaking and clear communication. How did you gain your confidence for giving talks, and how do you decide what to speak on when you're invited to speak?
Yeah, Serena, so I wish I could say that I am a born natural orator or a great speaker, but that was not the case, actually. My very first speaking engagement was a disaster, and that was in high school when I was supposed to address my school with the thought for the day, and I just drew a complete blank of what I was trying to say. So that's where I started, and but over the years, I built my confidence. I practiced a lot of public speaking and how to deliver presentations. And the thing I learned was that it's really about almost like storytelling. So you build your presentation slide by slide, trying to build up the momentum till the end where you're actually leaving the audience with a message or something that you want them to know and think about even after they leave the presentation and your summary. So that's how I started to then think about how I present topics. And I was able to learn a lot through some of those practice sessions and storytelling sessions. And that's how I learned how to deliver presentations. One of the things that I also learned was that spontaneity is very important when you're delivering a presentation. You have to be very cognizant of the environment, what's happening, make it interactive as people are trying to understand what they're trying to learn and what they're trying to also move towards. It's very important to keep it flowing very well, but also the content is important and needs a lot of prep work for the content. So your question about content and how you select contents, especially in some of these big conferences, there's a wide variety of folks attending it. So there could be professionals who are just starting off, early professionals, to folks who have been in the industry for 25 years, 30 years, 40 years. And how do you engage the audience throughout the presentation? So one of the things that I like to do is talk about whether it's technology advances or whether it's some of the trends. I like to relate it to the current situation and then put forth some thought leadership for the future of what the trends could be and try to bridge the gap between the current and the future and how people can weave through and maybe walk away with some tools and techniques and takeaways from the presentation that they can use in their work. And with the pandemic, especially now, it's so much relevant. Our industry, both the medtech and healthcare industry, really had to face a lot. And also, I think there was a lot of learnings from the pandemic that were happening as we were trying to adjust and adapt to the impact of COVID. And so it was very important to talk about the things that were happening in real time, try to learn from them and adapt our industry to be able to keep moving forward for delivering medical devices, for delivering PPEs, diagnostic kits, new therapies for COVID. And so it was very important to stay connected and sort of have these conferences and build on top of each other's thinking and come up with solutions. So, so that's my sort of thoughts on this subject. And the moral of the story is, you don't have to start off with a great speaker from the beginning. You learn as you go and have fun and keep doing it.
Yeah, and I can definitely relate to being a shy public speaker, and I've actually gained a lot of confidence by doing this show. So, Dr. Vagal, you were selected for the prestigious 2021 to 2022 Executive Leadership in Academic Medicine Fellowship. Can you tell us about your responsibilities as a leader and what skills are needed for good leadership?
Sure. So number one, I'm a student. I'm learning. And that's exactly what this fellowship is about. It basically trains women to be better leaders. One other thing that I want to say, we use the word leader a lot and we assign and we almost assume that it needs a rank or a title. You don't need a rank or a title to be a leader. Currently, Serena, you are a leader. You're leading this conference, and that's a big mindset. And I think it's a responsibility of not only just the leader, everybody is like, okay, how you have to view yourself as somebody who's able to lead a team, lead a project, lead people, right? So that's the big picture. I think all of us are leaders. I think one of the biggest thing for leader, number one, like I said, is learner. So I think a leader has to be a learner for life. One of the other responsibility, whether it is mine or anybody else, I'm a huge fan and a believer of 100% responsibility. As a leader, the buck stops here, period. It's never they, it's we. I did it. I take, when it's credit time, you give it to the others and your team. You have to, especially when things go wrong, and they will, trust me, I'm sure Asmitha understands what I'm saying. Things will go wrong. That's where the leadership is more about 100% ownership. And then I think my big philosophy that they like to tell us, and I think it's the big thing, is co-elevation. So again, it's not me leading somebody else. It's not a top-down leadership anymore. That model doesn't work. And I think as a leader, that's the biggest skill set. You never lead organizations, you lead people. And so having those people skills or having the emotional intelligence is critical, because that's what makes a good leader or a great leader or not such a good leader. And then the final thing, I think the biggest skill of any leader, of any person, is to have a self-reflection and understand and be mindful. That's when you're calm. That's when you know yourself first before you can put any project, any initiative, anything at all into the world. First, you have to start with yourself. So it starts with yourself, it ends with yourself, and that's when you bring your best you to the world.
Yeah, and I bet in the medical field, there is sort of this hierarchy of students, interns, residents, attendings. So I really like how you said that, it's about leading people, not leading just a team or a machine.
Yeah, and on that note, you have a good point. We always have a joke amongst ourselves: treat that medical student well, because you know what? She or he might be the dean of the school in future, right? So yeah, treat people right, and it's all about everybody on the same level field.
Definitely. So, Ms. Konolker, you recently published a paper on patient centricity in the pandemic era, and Dr. Vigal, as a doctor, you work with patients on a daily basis. So what are some of the common grounds you both see regarding patient centricity, and what are some of the biggest issues that patients face, and how can the medical and engineering fields work together to alleviate some of these issues?
Right. So this is a very important question, and actually I'll start from the engineering side of things, of how we see patient centricity. And really, patient centricity is about putting the patient at the heart of the challenge. And what are the patient preferences? Sometimes we also call it as human factor studies, and really. When we start to talk about patient centricity on some of the engineering side or the device side or therapy side, when we are bringing new or novel technologies in, what we're thinking about are really 4 different areas for patient centricity. So the first one starts with patient safety. So you want to make sure that the device you make it will not malfunction. It's not a risk to the patient. That's where it starts with. The second one is the efficacy of the therapy, which means that whatever you're trying to do for a clinical outcome, that the device or the therapy is actually meeting those needs, outcome that you desire. And then from there on, you start to build about the regimens that the patients will be adhering to the therapy. So how can you make it conducive to make sure that the patients will adhere to using that device or using that therapy? And then finally, sort of the soft side or the emotional side is, how do you make devices so they are not threatening? They are, people want to use it, they fit in with their lifestyle and the overall patient experience. So those are the 4 things that we start to think about for patient centricity.
So I'm going to add on some of the stuff that Asmitha has already mentioned. So we did a lot of design thinking projects, about how to integrate, what the users need. I will take it one step forward. We talk a lot about patient-centered. I think it is human-centered. Patients are they have a lot of touch points, and on every touch point, there is a human. So I'm a radiologist, so we have a lot of technologists who are actually one of the first front-facing. And what I always tell people is, if you have an unhappy technologist, you will have an unhappy patient. So whenever any systems or processes are being designed, either in the department, at the institution, it is all about all those human touch points. So it's a human-centered. That's one part of it. And then the second thing, I think, when you say patient-centered or we say human-centered, it's about humanizing the process. When patients and families come to the hospital, they're scared. They're one of their most vulnerable points of their life, right? And that human aspect we all have to get. I think that's the main thing. When we we can automate the process, we can have the greatest and the best technologies and the innovation. We can have artificial intelligence, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but we have to humanize it. The more automated we become, the more human we have to become. So I think my biggest thing about it is it's not just patient-centered, it is human-centered, and humanize the process, and then we will be able to take the best care for everybody.
Very well said.
Yeah, I think both of your perspectives are really important in understanding, what makes the patient's job easier, because when you're a patient, you're vulnerable, you don't want any hard, lingo, you want to be able to understand the whole process. So definitely making it easier for them and more human and have that human touch is really important. So as a student, I am very interested in both medicine and technology, and I believe that both fields can work together to advance healthcare. So how do the medical doctors and engineers work together to advance medicine? And for a leader, collaboration is very important. So do engineers and doctors sort of have these discussions, and what is the end goal?
Yeah, so I can start on this one. I think collaboration is key. Multiple reasons. Collaborations is fun. All of us like to do what we do because we work with good, smart people. So I always have a rule. If you're the smartest in the room, you need to find a different room. And collaboration is very humbling in a way, because you get people from all fields and everybody comes together and they actually discuss and do the ideas, and they come up with better solutions. We collaborate all the time in the medical world. I'll give you two specific examples. So we collaborate a lot with biomedical engineers, where we are looking at MRI scans and what can we do better in those MRI scans? How can we have better sequences? How can we get better images? I can read those images as a radiologist, but I need the engineer to tweak some of the machines and everything and the software behind it. That's one example. We do it all the time. The second one is AI. We work with computer engineers, computer programmers, biostatisticians who, they bring something to the table, and then we bring what is, the medical news, the medical knowledge, and that's where what we call as team science helps. And just so that you know, Serena, in the NIH funding, and when you're looking for research collaboration, team science is the best way to go. You cannot do, one person cannot do any project. In fact, NIH will not fund projects which don't have these multidisciplinary, cross-disciplinary teams. So yeah, I'm all about collaboration as a leader, as a team player.
Right. Oh, and that's a great point. Achal has brought up is collaboration. And as a leader, how do you collaborate and bring all these skills together and build on each other's ideas is very important. Especially if you look into the future, all the new technologies that are going to come through, whether it's digital transformation or, working on new technologies, mRNA technologies or genome editing, all of these are multidisciplinary areas, and you're going to need, to work with each other. In case of digital transformation, like Achal just pointed out too also, is you're going to need to work with people from electronics industry. You're going to need to work with people from information and communication technology, all the medical apps, and then feed in the medical information. And how do you, bring patient in? So it's so much interaction with so many different people. And then in case of bringing new therapies to life, all of these new mRNA, there's all of these biochemists working with immunologists or, for people who have all of this information on genomics, and then trying to bring in therapies to cure cancer and, cancer therapies. And so all of these different disciplines have to learn to sort of come together, work together, build base by base on ideas. So in the end, you can really have a solution for mankind. And so as a leader, I think that's a very important skill, to be able to work with others and also learn. Like Achala said in the first place, is learning. You never finish learning. You have to constantly learn. And as you are getting more and more into the next breakthrough sciences and technologies, it's only inevitable that you have to keep learning of all of these different sciences to be able to move forward.
Yeah, definitely the cross-disciplinary projects are really important to advance science. And as a student, you know, we get to learn not just about science, but we learn about general education courses. And you can really see how every industry goes hand in hand and works together. So Ms. Konolker, you have been on multiple panel discussions for promoting women in engineering, and what is some advice you would give to young girls who, you know, might be shy or scared to take up a leadership position in STEM, especially if they don't, you know, have much experience in STEM?
Right. So I think this is an important topic, and it needs advocacy and awareness. I think it is important to have more representation of girls and women in leadership roles. Currently, that percent is like under 15%. So definitely there is room for improvement. And the reason you want to have, more girls and more women and representation is because we want diverse leaders. We want to have diverse ideas. We want to bring in more different ways of thinking to science and technology and the STEM fields. And that's the only way we'll succeed forward, if we bring in everybody's ideas and have representation from everyone. And to the girls and the young professionals who are starting off in this field, I would say this is an era of opportunity. Take it. Because there are a lot of different initiatives.
Now, my advice to the audience, the young audience who's listening, is trust yourself and take the leap, and don't be afraid to fail. It's okay. In fact, if you don't fail, then something's wrong there, because if you find anybody on in your house, on the street, and ask them, ma'am, have you ever failed before? The answer will be yes. So don't worry. It's part of the game and the learning.
Right, and there is that saying that, you know, you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes.
Yep.
Very true.
So, Dr. Vigal, you lead the UC Imaging Management Center and Imaging Core Lab and Research, and you are an educator as well at the University of Cincinnati. So can you give us some insights on what it's like to lead and manage a team, and how do you coach new students and bring them into your team?
Okay, so there are two questions in this, right? One is about team. So I'm going to answer that one first, and then we'll go to the students. So I believe in building dream teams. What does dream team mean? It's basically synergistic teams where the members trust each other, okay? And they have candor, and they have got each other's back, and they're all working towards a common goal. So a great example of teamwork, and I can't find better examples than this, is in the Army or the Marines or the Navy SEALs. People are ready to lay down their lives for their team members, right? So that's the ideal. Now, we are not in a profession where our life is at risk, although COVID did have those kind of repercussions sometimes. Definitely that was real for the medical, community and the healthcare workers. But to the point where, do you have the team that can work so well together that it's not, again, me, my requirements, but it's what the team needs and what the institution needs. So that is my biggest overarching goal when I work with teams, when I build teams. It's about having those dream teams which are synergistic towards a common goal. And it takes time. And again, going back to that 100% ownership, if the team is not working well, it's the leader. Period. There are never good teams or bad teams. It's only good leaders or bad leaders, right? So you set the tone of what the team is going to do, and that's where the magic happens. The second question is about students. Yeah, we get a lot of students. I get the privilege of training the next generation, people that will be taking care of me and Asmitha when we get old, which is never. So how do we, train the students? My biggest advice to students, whether it's medical students, resident fellows, or even junior faculty, is get a mission, not a career. I don't believe in careers. When you have a mission, that's when you're passionate about your work. That's when you don't wait for that Friday. That's when you don't wait for the vacation. And my favorite question is she working? Is she playing? Like, you don't need to escape work to go, do something fun. And that's what I mean by get a mission, not a career. And I have students and I have residents who work on weekends when they're not supposed to, writing papers, learning their knowledge base and developing it. And that's really, really important. And the second thing I tell them is I also believe in putting in the work. It takes time to master your craft. I also like the 10,000 hour rule. There are no shortcuts, but when it is part of your mission, then it is actually more fun. So that's how I mentor students.
Do you mind sharing your mission as a
Yes, absolutely. So my personal mission is basically empowerment. It's one word, but it is empowering myself, empowering the team, empowering the individual. And what I mean by that is that you and I and Asmitha and everybody else who's listening have to reach our potential. And so that empowerment is that one big word. But I also, the next step to that is you empower and you lead your life, you lead your work, and you live your life with confidence, joy, and ease. So if these three things are missing in anything that I do, I take a step back. Well, confidence, because it's okay to fail. Remember I said, I'm not scared of failing, and I tell the students now, when you're dealing with patients, that's one thing and that's where you have to train, right? You cannot make mistakes there. But when you're training, when you're learning, so that's the confidence. You have to have joy and you have to have an ease in it, because in the end, it's all about the journey. So that's my mission, empowerment with confidence, joy, and ease.
That's true.
Yep. And, you talked a lot about mentoring students, and I know Ms. Konolker, you also mentored a lot of students. Could you give any perspective on what it's like?
Yeah, so I think mentoring, in my mind, especially for STEM fields, I feel like starts very early on, right from, elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. I think, we need to bring in a lot of this flavor of what's happening in the industry to the schools early on. So students can get excited about these fields and what's happening, 3D printing, thinking, outside the box, problem solving, critical thinking, all of those things, I think we need to bring in as examples of their day-to-day stuff that they can lead into. And so mentoring starts, for me, I feel like, it starts with schooling, bringing in industry together, whether it's robotics teams or science projects or research projects. So I think it's very important there. And then moving on to, colleges where, internships are a good way of mentoring and, having students exposed to hands-on training. I think that's really, in engineering, I feel hands-on training especially is very important to learn technologies, to be able to use different machines, to learn about automation, to learn about how do you do problem solving, and really adapt and apply what you've learned to solving problems. And so for me, mentoring is a very broad sort of topic, which is not just in the field of work that you do or in your industry, but it also starts from mentoring outside of the industry and helping really students bridge this gap from where they start learning at school all the way through the industry, and then supporting some of the early professionals so that they can become leaders and professionals in their industry. So I've had a lot of great learning as well and experience in this field, and I truly believe that starting early on from early education, mentoring is the way to go, so you can actually have a lot of folks ready for the challenges of tomorrow, like we just talked about, of what's coming in the future. And everybody's ready to take that on. And the future is really bright for all of the new students and who are coming in this field for STEM.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. You have to start the mentoring early. But one thing that I would like to just build on the great points that Asmitha said is, and that's a message for your for the viewers and the young bright minds of who are watching this. Mentorship is a two-way street. And the other thing that I tell students all the time, I have an army of mentors, literally an army. In the field, as Asmitha was saying, outside the field, some people tell me how to work, do the work-life balance. Some people tell me a scientific question. Some people tell me the best spa to go to, right? And I have male mentors, female mentors, but it is a proactive approach. So for the viewers, I would say, seek out your mentors. Don't wait for a mentor to come to you. Figure out what you need and go out there. And for people like me and Asmitha and so many thousands and millions, it's a privilege to mentor. But it's a two-way street. So seek out and build your own army of mentors. Don't wait for the mentor to come to you. And Serena, you are a great example of doing that. Reaching out proactively, and like we said it is our privilege to help women and men, girls and boys who have that conviction. So you should give a talk on how to find great mentors, I think.
That's true.
Yes, and I think, we as students, we learn a lot from our mentors, and mentors also learn from students. So, and there will be a point in time where our mentors will sort of pass down the baton to us, and we'll become the new leaders. And
absolutely.
we'll become the mentors. So thank you both so much for being here, and it was really interesting to get sort of the technology perspective as well as the medical perspective. And stay tuned for our next episode on different careers in STEM.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And this concludes our show. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for our next episode of Various Careers in STEM.